Alrighty then. Let me just mute the other machine. And be done with this act of petty sabotage, which I have no idea why these things keep on happening. The video just froze on my machine for no reason whatsoever that I can see, and I'm, definitely not tech savvy enough to do anything about it. So we'll have to not watch the rest of it and switch to, well, me apologizing for that and wishing the company I'm involved with and very happy to be involved with, Chess24, happy birthday. And there's a lot of interesting chess going on, but there's also this celebration which I'm happy to be a part of, and probably we should just start playing some chess, and topics will hopefully arise from what's happening on the board. And once again, apologies for the technical hiccups, and let's hope that the rest of the show will go smoothly. Not sure how to. People are complaining the volume is too low. I am sitting almost right next to the mic, and let me see if I can do something about it. But let me dial it up a little bit and see if that helps. I made it somewhat louder. Let me know if that's any better. Yeah, I will be keeping an eye on chat, but not sure. What with everything that's going on, I'm not sure how much attention I will be able to pay to chat. Hang on a second. There should be a way to make it. Yeah, that's. Hang on a sec. Let me try this again. Yeah, that's better. I got chat open in a separate window, so I will see a lot more of it, and also this way I will be able to ban people for misbehaving. And yeah, Handicap was announced, and I think it was once again explained on the website how the Handicap rules work. But it's, I mean, I was never really in charge of that. Users had to do that on their own by setting manual challenges, and I will be accepting randomly chosen challenges for about 3 hours, and if some of them are handicapped properly, I'm happy to play those. If they aren't, they aren't. So not a lot to say about that. And after all that, let's get to playing some Blitz. Okay, let me resize things a little bit. Yeah, that seems to work. Let's go. And as usual, I'll start with some of the higher rated one, but I will be including games against somewhat lower rated people as well. And as you can see, the clocks are now visible, and hopefully this layout will not disappear midway through the show, because the kind people of Chess24 put a lot of effort into fixing something weird that I have done to my layouts, which resulted in all kinds of problems which needed to be fixed at the very last minute. Yeah, if I... that's a good suggestion. My pawns eat people. let's go back to the Grunfeld now that this option has been given to me. Let's start with playing something that I'm more familiar with. Generally, this move order does not allow black to get the Grunfeld back, but now that this option is available, I'll avail myself of it. I switch between move orders a ton in this particular line of the Grunfeld. I think I've played more or less everything under the sun against Bishop e3, and this particular line has been popularized in recent years, I think, mainly for you know, first and foremost by the efforts of Jan Nepomniachtchi, who's been doing this consistently against pretty much everyone he faced, and it's an interesting line for black. It leads to more, I think, somewhat more unknown positions compared to, let's say, the Rook d8 lines in particular, where there really is a ton of theory. This is a kind of a setup black generally aims for here. You play e5 to stop white from achieving further space gains in the center. Then this knight ideally goes from f6 via the e8 square towards d6, and then you might want to consider counterplay either with f5 if you're in time with that, or sometimes black goes for a6 and b5 counterplay, but that's a lot harder to realize because of the weakness of the c5 pawn. You can probably play knight d6 straight away, but I'll take some more care and play queen e7 first to play knight d6 later. If he goes queen c3 or queen b2, I will have... That's a weird move to my eyes, because I was planning to play f6 anyway, and I don't think the queen does a lot on g3. For the time being, I will just finish my development, play b6. This is a very, very solid structure for black, but making any kind of progress is difficult. But it feels like my opponent might actually help me out there and do all of my work for myself. For me, People already are trying to trigger me by apparently criticizing cricket in chat. Please don't do that. I am not in my most positive frame of mind as it is, due to unrelated events, and people insulting cricket will just make me even sadder, and nobody wants that, right? Because why would you? I'm a bit confused. It's a very nice position, but we would like not to hold it, but to win it somehow, and that might prove to be difficult, because white is not particularly active, but white is very, very solid, obviously. He should go for something like rook e1 and bishop c2 to try and drive this bishop away from a4. Or something like knight b1, knight c3 also makes some sense. And the restructuring my opponent has gone for, it actually is very, very sensible. And it's time, I think, for me to sort of put my money where my mouth is and actually start opening something up on the king's side. I'll go king e7 to at least retain some pressure along the g-file. He probably can go knight e2 and keep everything contained. Rook h1 is also a move, but it's a bit more passive. But it actually, once again, black is doing very well, but that very well is probably only good enough for a draw. He should probably go knight b5, and the position is locked down enough so that he will hold. But I think he kind of missed the fact that my previous move actually had an idea, and now I should be winning. Yeah, this is now completely winning. Okay, so a decent enough start. Well, let's see what else we have there. There are some custom challenges I already see in the list, so I'll go and fish for some of those. People seem to be I've spotted a number of custom challenges which seem to be kind of scaled. It feels like people are not asking for a large enough handicap. If I remember the scale correctly, that actually is not handicapped at all. I'll continue. Ah, okay. Weird. I just realized that I don't have a bishop on f8. So it's going to be that kind of a stream. All right. I was not aware this was a thing, honestly. This is going to be very, very difficult because, frankly, I mean, time odds is something I'm quite familiar with and reasonably happy to try. Material odds is something else altogether, and material odds are difficult. Material odds are, you know, the culture of giving material odds has completely disappeared. You know, when you read about, you know, the golden masters of old, giving all kinds of material odds to amateurs of various ilk. And they seem to have been doing okay with it, which is completely mystifying to me because when I look at this position, I just want to resign. I'm a full piece down. Why am I playing? So I will have to be very, very careful with those. When I see custom challenges today, I will have to be very, very careful because apparently they are not what I expected them to be. Maybe I should have paid more attention to... I suspect there was an announcement on the website somewhere that you can do this, because otherwise people probably wouldn't have done it. And that means that I probably should pay more attention to what is being announced on the website. That's a bit of a stupid mistake to have made. If there are video issues for people, I apologize. I don't really know what to do about that. I have had some issues with my connection in recent days. And if they resurface today, it will be extremely painful, obviously. I honestly don't understand why I'm giving this person a piece. He seems to be playing a perfectly reasonable game. I'm not sure how much of a favorite I would have been. Well, I mean, I would have been a favorite, obviously. I don't want to understate it yeah, okay. That's useful. Yeah, so custom challenges. I have to probably steer clear of custom challenges because that experience is a bit saddening, frankly. It just feels like you are disrespecting your opponent by playing on in a position where you know, you're just completely lost. Okay, so let's do something less controversial. Yeah, this I can relate to. 5 against 3 against 2351. This is not going to be easy, but it at least should be, you know, something. I know how this works. Whereas the previous game, I was just so confused as to, you know, what I should be playing in the opening, how I should keep the position, even, you know, relatively alive, and so on. Yeah, that was a brilliant solution in a way that I managed to set my opponent one small tactical problem which he for some reason failed to solve, even though, you know, his entire previous play in that game gave me absolutely no reason to suspect that he will miss a mate in one anywhere. That was a really weird game, to be honest. Because, I mean, none of his decisions up to the point where he missed a mate in one were, you know, questionable at all. He actually played a very solid game, taking great care to extinguish, you know, any semblance of counterplay. Did not blunder anything at all at any point, and then suddenly, boom, resigns. Well, not even resigns. Just blunders mate. Layout seems to be holding, which is, you know, at least something is going moderately right. Please don't scare me by oops no stream. I'm extremely paranoid right now about connectivity issues, which could, you know, reappear at any point. I'm not sure castling this early was correct. Actually, maybe playing 95 was a bit better. Whoa. My opponent is not fooling around here. We are about to get mated, or at least there will be an attempt to give mate here. There was a number of questions concerning the Women's World Championship. I don't know who will win it. I think after a somewhat significant slice of luck, she got in the semifinals. Anna Muzichuk is looking very, very threatening. She beat Alexandra Kostyniuk in the first game of their semifinal from a position where yeah, I need to make a move and then I'll return to that topic. She had a very, very suspect position in that game, and she won after Alexandra made a number of somewhat uncharacteristic blunders. And but she's been playing quite well for the entire event, and yeah, she looks definitely like a very serious contender. I want to give up this pawn on e6 in some kind of an interesting fashion to give myself some space and some counterplay, but I'm struggling a little bit to formulate the exact move order. Because if I play e5, my position is just not very attractive, because it will be difficult to find counterplay. It's not impossible to play e5, I just don't like it very much. This game is 5 against 3. Material is equal. Yeah, this probably is a welcome sight, because I get some tempi to disentangle myself a little bit. And I can just play, I mean, I can just take on f5 next move if I want to. That was the original plan, but I can also maybe just play bishop d8 and pretend that nothing happened. Not sure what's better. I think he probably should have accepted the pawn sacrifice on the previous move. There was nothing particularly wrong with just taking on e6 twice here. I don't know why my opponent decided not to. And after f6, my idea was just to play g6, followed by h5, and then you generally don't get mated. And once you make sure you don't get mated on the king side, your life obviously becomes a lot safer, and you can start thinking about creating your own counterplay. Like queen d7, bishop b6, for instance, or queen d7 followed by bishop c7 and d5. Yeah, I don't think queen odds are particularly interesting, Gobadi. And now that I know that this is the challenge you issued, I will probably stay well clear of it, because yeah, it's it's less fun for the people for the person giving such huge odds than you would think, honestly. I should make very, very sure that the knight doesn't land on g5 somehow. If I allow the knight from d4, let's say if he goes bishop f4 takes, yeah, I should also start playing a lot faster. I mean, unchallenged. If he goes knight f3 here, I will take and I will feel reasonably okay about life. But if he goes bishop f4, it's very important for me to stop him from taking on e5 and then playing knight f3, knight g5 check. h5 rook g8 actually opens files for me and not for him. I'm very, very much hoping he goes h5 either here or at some point in the future, because it really is completely counterproductive. It will be black who will be attacking on the king's side after that. That was a mistake, but maybe not a fatal one. I've clean forgotten that the knight on d3 is hanging, but I am picking up this bishop on b6, and I also have this idea of queen g4 check. So it's not even the absolute worst move I could have made in that position, which is saying something. I could have started with bishop takes d5 first, but I will play it next move anyway. And try and activate my rooks. And this actually drops a rook. So I am suddenly completely winning. Yeah, d5 was a huge mistake, obviously, because there were better choices there, but because it created the idea of rook takes b6, at least it didn't cost me the full. Good thing he didn't go queen g3. Yeah, well played, the communicator. Yeah, queen g3 would have been a harsh blow to my pre-move of bishop takes d5 there. Okay, so yeah, let's get some of those higher rated games out of the way, and then we'll start mixing it up a little bit. Let's play the trump. Not that I know what I'm doing in the trump, but everyone and their mother is playing the trump these days, so why not me? Not sure about this a6 b5 business, to be honest. My plan was to go bishop b4 here. I'm still not entirely sure this is great, but if he goes c6, I think my play is somewhat justified. Thanks, France. It's new, and I quite like it myself. I thought it was appropriate to try and look sharp today for, you know, for the big day for the company. If I allow c7, c5 as a break, I will have nothing. On the other hand, if I somehow manage not to allow c7, c5 here, I should have a reasonably large advantage. So the fight will be over that one pawn break. If he goes rook ac8 here, it's probably going to be quite difficult for me to prevent him from achieving the pawn break, which is regrettable because, as mentioned, I will have next to nothing after that. I can pretend I'm slightly better anyway after knight f4, maybe, but it will be mostly pretense. Yeah, of course they mean appearance and not play. I never took it any other way. Come on. Whoever called my play sharp? This is not something people do. You probably should take with the rook. Yeah, I was about to say that this is probably the more precise line. But this is still, like, not entirely equal, because my pawn structure is a bit better. And this kind of resembles these, you know, Catalan endgames where white generally tortures black for a while in many cases. I am aware that Muzachuk is through to the finals. I was describing her victory against Kostyaniuk a minute ago. Okay, I think maybe knight d2, knight c4 was a useful idea there, but I will not allow it anymore. And now things might start actually to drop. So, as mentioned, the pawn on a6 is a very typical weakness in these types of positions. And here my opponent realized that I didn't actually blunder the f2 pawn, because after rook takes f2 I would have gone rook a8 mate. That probably came as a bit of a surprise. Yeah, but f5, I blundered f5. Because after ef now he has rook d8 and he picks up my knight. And that was a reasonably large mistake from me. But I should still be able to recover somehow. And the same theme is still very much in place here, because if he goes rook c2, once again back rank mate was an issue there for him. Yeah, and now that I managed to isolate the e-pawn, I should be very, very comfortably winning here. Because the queenside pawns will just march. I'll just go b4. I will keep this simple. And now I can play knight c3 if I want. Yeah, that wasn't particularly well played, but I actually managed to play myself into some kind of difficulties here, but they should be manageable. And obviously if people blunder rooks, it's good enough, but yeah, I kind of let my control slip from somewhere around here. This position should be completely winning for me, but I did not convert particularly convincingly from here, but the position is still very, very good for white, and my time advantage eventually. Yeah, he could have taken on a2, I guess, at some point. But I can, if you mean this position, let's say knight c1, king e3, knight a2, I can take on e4. It's not going to be fun with the difference in king activity and also my extra b pawn. Okay, nothing in chat which seemingly requires my immediate attention, so let's move on to more challenges. People seem to actually like the idea of custom challenges, so let's see what future has in store. This is a time odds challenge, which I'm, as mentioned, 5 against 3 I'm very comfortable with. But I have no way of telling until I click on it, so some of them probably will be material odds. And I want to apologize in advance for what those games might end up looking like. There is, I think the critical move here is knight c6, not d6. I'm not entirely sure why though. I'll go with the simplest solution, just take and play d4. Maybe the immediate d4 is even stronger, it's hard to say. Thanks, Jabroni. It's good to be back. I'm not sure about queen takes d4 either, because if I allow knight c6 now, I will have nothing at all, so I will try and at least you know, get some development in before black stabilizes. But I'm probably not getting a ton here. Like knight c6, rook d1, queen b6 or something. And it feels like black should just be fine. The problem for me is that I would very much like to castle queenside here, but it's almost impossible for me to achieve, it feels. Because there is nothing I can interpose along the d-file, at least even temporarily, to castle, because the queen on d8 is so annoying. I mean, rook d1 looks like a very natural and nice move to make, but queen b6, both queen b6 and queen a5 is also very, very playable here. Both of those moves just solve, I think, most of black's problems, because then he castles kingside. He has a very fluid, comfortable structure, and yeah, it's just a fine position for black. I'm not even sure what I'm supposed to do here, to be honest. I can play queen d6, but it creates no threats. He can probably even take on b2 in reply. But maybe it's a way to at least confuse the matters a little bit, because if he takes on b2, I can play knight b5 and create some actual direct threats. I was about to say that one of the prerequisites for playing in these banters is going premium. For anyone who did not, you did not know that. Black can obviously play something like queen b4 and trade the queens off, but at least I will make him spend some additional time on those decisions. And I don't mean just the time he's spending in the tank right now choosing a move, but I mean it will cost him a number of tempi to get the queens off after, for instance, queen b4. And that time hopefully will give me, you know, a chance to create something. Yeah, I'm sorry, Gobedi. I understand you rated 1600, but trust me, it's not fun to give queen odds. Yeah, queen before c5 is a move, but then you allow knight e4, and everything has to go back. I'm kind of curious why this is taking so long for my opponent, because I understand it's an important decision, but generally people don't like thinking for this long during blitz games. Makes me think that maybe something is wrong with his connection, but okay, let's see what he came up with. But that's a full rook. That's a full rook, and you probably don't get the knight either, because it probably escapes via c7. You can try playing knight a6 to cut off the c7 square, but I can play c5 in reply. Yeah, that's kind of the point. Otherwise, maybe black would have gotten some compensation, but I can play c5, hitting this knight on a6. And if you do this, I think this probably is quite good enough. Because now the bishop on c8 is just so stupid that... did I move my king already? Whoops. Sorry about that. It seems like I am not allowed to castle in this game. Probably due to the way the challenge was structured. And that's very confusing. That's very, very confusing. And also, you know, this is a kind of a thing you would very much like to know in advance. Because it kind of changes the way you approach a number of things. Had I known I will not be able to castle in this game, I may have chosen a number of things somewhat differently. Normally I would have played castles here, but I'm forced to play king g2. But it's still incredibly strong because rook hc1 check is coming now. No, I don't think the rule is unfair. What is actually quite unfair is that nothing in the challenge informs me about that. That's the fun bit. Let me just. The problem is when I scroll, stuff disappears. So I can't really scroll particularly well. But let me just take a small break and see if I can find it. If I can find any information about the challenge anywhere at all, because like this is some really weird ambush. It's not here. Nope. Nowhere that I can see. So basically this means that whenever I click on a custom challenge, I will be learning the rules of the challenge as I go along. This could be fun. I can see this being fun. But once again, this probably means I will be even warier of clicking on custom challenges. It's not the rating I'm worried about, Trollfjord Peddler. It honestly isn't. I'm not very attached to my chess24 rating. It's just that when I click on castling short there, and I'm pretty sure that I haven't moved my king yet, and yet the program tells me not to make that move because that move is illegal, I just get extremely confused. That was my problem with the whole thing, not the fact that let's switch to a Benoni. It's not a particularly good Benoni, but it's like a standard bishop d3 h3 Benoni. Bishop e2 is not the move you're supposed to play in this position, though. Not that it's bad, but I think bishop d3 has been for a very long time sort of universally accepted as one of the best things you can play against the Benoni in general. Sorry. And whenever you have the opportunity to switch to it, I think you should switch to it. Yeah, and the old meme of forcing me to play French with black is very much back in fashion today. Come on, guys. What have I ever done to you for you to force that meme? Time handicap is perfectly fine, Chessicon. Perfectly fine. That was my original suggestion. It was actually, I believe I pitched that idea to Chess24 myself way back when I did the first handicap banter. I had this idea that it might be interesting to people to have this option of asking for time odds. Benoni is not great, but Benoni is definitely playable. There's nothing particularly wrong with Benoni. You can only castle after your opponent, and it has to be opposite sides. That sounds like a very exciting, interesting rule. Let's see. Let's try and play the next 3 games according to that rule. I will pick non-custom challenges against somewhat lower rated people, and I will give it my honest try to only castle after my opponent has castled, and then castle on the opposite side. I will probably score 0 out of 3, but at least it will be fun for everyone involved. And I'm always looking for, you know, new ways to actually manage to make this into a somewhat unclear position. I mean, not entirely unclear, but a number of my recent decisions in this game were extremely questionable. But I think queen h5 solves those issues for me. It was very, very important for me to hit this bishop on h6 so the queen d4 does not create the threat of mate in 1. I am lower rated, Peter. I'm only rated 24, 21. Yeah, nice try. Nice try. What's the best line against the King's Gambit? I think the understanding that the g5 lines are very good is still very much in place. But I had an occasion to prepare for knight e7 when I was playing my micro match against Etienne Bacro in Corsica last year, and knight e7 is also perfectly serviceable. There is nothing wrong with it. I don't know what's better. I think it is very much a matter of taste. I think lines where you hang on to the extra pawn on f4 are a lot more ambitious in terms of, you know, trying to win immediately, trying to really get a position out of the opening, which is not just better, it should just be winning in many cases, especially if white misplays somewhere. Whereas knight e7, I think white in many cases will be able to you know, get positions which are not good, but not horrible either. I'll start with queen h3 first. Stream issues. Once again, I really hope you're not doing this just to spook me, because I am very, very easily spooked on the subject. And here we will have, I mean, both knight f3 and rook b1 are, you know, sort of unstoppable mating threats here. Yeah, hopefully refreshing the page works. Freezing in Russia, how astonishing. Okay, so once again, I hope the streaming issues are not that horrible. I've done all I could to, you know, make sure my connection is stable and blah blah, but not a lot I can do if something is not quite right on that subject. And I hope they can be resolved by refreshing, and I obviously apologize for. I mean, it's as someone who watches a lot of streams, I understand how annoying it is when it's buffering all the time. Not a ton I can do at the moment, though. Okay, so the promised 3 games, with the opposite side castle rule. Let's go. Looking for someone who is in that sweet spot of not horribly strong and not horribly weak either. Ah, refresh resets the challenges. Does it though? That would be weird. Okay, so we are already in trouble here after 1d4, I think. Because it's 1d4 kind of signifies that he will play knight f3 and he will develop and he will castle kingside. Therefore, I need to be playing something which will allow me to castle queenside and not lose on the spot. And I'm not sure what that is. But let's try and manufacture some kind of a solution here. Nimzo actually gives us some leeway there. Yeah, I'm very sorry to to see all the comments regarding regarding the lag. I think I'll go with d6, and I will probably stop after this game. No, but that is actually very, very risky. I could try rebooting the the router, but that could kill the event, like the YouTube event I'm currently streaming to, and that would be most assuredly a bad thing. Okay, this is kind of weird. Because I think like announcing what I will do was probably a mistake. Because I can't castle while the king is still on e1 according to the rules of the challenge, right? So I have to make all these weird small moves, which kind of make my position unplayable. And what my opponent is doing here is extremely smart, because like he will castle kingside sort of next move, I expect, and then I'll have to castle queenside, and then I will just get mated. So that really is quite well played. I quite like what he's doing, if not for the fact that, you know, I will be on the receiving end of it. Yeah. Trying weird handicaps against people with a brain. That's not a recipe for success. Yeah, the thing about this is that like this position is just so completely lost because of how my opponent approached the whole thing, and there's really not a ton you can do about it. It's just completely resignable. Yeah, this was someone who really understood what he was doing. Like I have some kind of, you know, grumbling admiration for the way my opponent approached this game, because this is a very, very nice example of, you know, picking a strategy which works and executing it very, very cleanly. It's very painful to be on the receiving end of it, though. I'm not sure what he's done here, though, because this really isn't mate yet. He could have just continued quietly. And this is not mate either. I think I can actually take this, because I have knight b8. I think my opponent got somewhat overexcited. Like 5 moves ago, my position was just completely lost because, you know, in a position with equal material, I castled into an attack which should just win. But yeah, I think he got slightly overconfident that his position would tolerate basically anything. Yeah, rook a1 creates a threat, and I should not blunder the very clever mate in 3 that CP Coutert is pointing out there, but I probably will not blunder it. Rook a8 followed by Queen a6, I can go King d7. The king will be very safe on d7, go Betty. That is not an issue. The only chance he has to create a threat is to go Rook a8 followed by Rook a1, creating an idea of Rook takes b8, King takes b8, and Queen a8 mate. But it should be possible for me to deal with it. There's a number of ways I can go about things there, which should cover the threats there. Yeah, Rook a8, I'm not playing King b7, Bluesy. I'm playing Knight b8, of course. Ah, that would actually be very useful, Don G. I probably will go with this rule because, yeah, you know, challenge in a way. It's challenge in a way. I try to play according to. Yeah, that sentence will never end. But basically, the way I tried to deal with the challenge in this game, I think this is just not sustainable. It's just, you know, too horrible. Rook a1 actually would have been quite tricky here. This never works, but Rook a1, there's not an immediate solution that I liked apart from Queen e1 check, which probably works, but it's a sad move to make. Rook a7. Don't really understand, we'll continue collecting material. Okay, so yeah, probably sort of forcing me to castle is a bit harsh, because then people can do exactly what Trollfjord did in this game, and that's, you know, very, very difficult to play against. But I probably should have an option of keeping my king in the center if I feel like that. Once again, I should play an opening in which castling queenside is not unthinkable. And there it is, the French. And the reason I opted for the French is most people play e5 here. And now we can do something like this. And the point is, he will probably castle kingside here, and then we've established a situation in which, if I'm forced to castle queenside, I will not be all that unhappy. Excellent. I can even go sort of one further and try and make sure the queenside is completely safe before castling. That would be a little bit, you know, somewhat cheating, but not exactly. I played knight c6 because once again we are doing these you know, this weird kind of a challenge. If he decides not to play b5 here, I'm kind of screwed. That's kind of the drawback of what I'm doing. But if he does play b5, now my position is excellent, because I can castle queenside, and I made sure that there will be no pawn storms on that side of the board ever. So I'm quite happy about that. That probably is a horrible move because I allowed bishop g5. I should not have allowed bishop g5 until I played f6. Because had he played bishop g5 on the previous move, for me to actually play f6 would have been a lot more difficult, and that would be quite unfortunate. And now we're kind of crashing through, but my opponent has not really done justice to his position from a certain moment on. Yeah, he had to play knight f4, but I think e5 just wins a lot of material here. One thing about looking this sharp is that despite all the shock horror it's freezing in Russia, it's only freezing in terms of my upload speeds. It actually is quite warm in the flat, and I'm beginning to feel like putting on a suit may not have been the best idea ever, but I'll stick with it for the time being. For 10k, I'm not sure, Chipmunk. The idea is not really that absurd. It will grow back, but like I would do it for some kind of a stupid bet where this would be stipulated as a loss condition. Like there's some kind of a prop bet in which if I lose I have to shave my head. That I would definitely do if it came up. I don't see any problem with that. But doing it for money feels a bit cheesy. Okay, so we are better, and we are better. Not better. We're white, and this should give us a better grasp. Of, like, we should play something flexible so that it gives us an opportunity to choose the side which where to castle. But it's actually kind of tricky. I'm trying to pick an opening. In most cases, we need to prepare to castle queenside. So I think it's probably not 1e4. Yeah, I think this is... I should have started with knight f3 though. But this probably is still okay. Okay, now we're in trouble. Now we're in a lot of trouble. I live in St. Petersburg, not Moscow, so questions about quality of life in Moscow are misaddressed. Okay, so we'll do this. We'll do knight h4, I'll take on g6, and then I will go bishop d2, queen e2, and I'll wait on his decision and probably castle long. Once again, if he decides to castle long himself, it will put me in a bit of a quandary, because you generally don't want to be castling kingside here as white. It's not a very attractive proposition. But it's not impossible. St. Petersburg is a fantastic city, but you should be very, very aware of the climate, which means that you are advised to travel to St. Petersburg in summer. Specifically summer, not even like late autumn or early autumn or late spring, specifically summer, unless you want to be rained on. Like in the very best cases, you will get rained on constantly, and right now it's the end of February, and it's snowing very, very heavily today. We had to go do some stuff in town earlier today, and the weather was, very clear and very nice. We got back home, and now if you look outside, it's snowing like serious, huge snowflakes, falling constantly, and that means that probably tomorrow the sun will come out again, all of that will melt, and there will be this horrible, horrible black slush underfoot, which means that you know, going outside will be just incredibly unpleasant. Okay, so now we have to castle queenside, right? But when the weather is good, which is, once again, I don't want to stress this, you know, this cannot be stressed enough. This is, we're talking about summer, specifically summer. The city is fantastic. The architecture, the culture. I quite like the people as well. Yeah, I could keep it on E1, but that's no fun. I mean, I'm already a piece up. Why would I not abide by the rules of the challenge here? Just feels like I'm, you know, reneging a little bit on it. It's not 2 months a year. I mean, starting from somewhere around late April, maybe May, it gets very decent, and we do get very good summers. And September and October are, you know, you will have some good days, but you will also get some bad days. Let's continue with this pawn march up the board. It seems like the easiest way to convert here, actually, to create some targets on the king's side. And here I will cheat a little bit and actually trade queens. Or not. My opponent doesn't seem to be inclined to allow that, which I can sort of understand because, well, that was probably not a good move. Queen e5 is kind of annoying here. Although queen takes c7 maybe. And I also want to check very briefly on... I'm not playing in Sharjah, but I will be playing in the next 3, so I'm very curious as to what's going on there. And there was a very, very interesting game played in Sharjah today between Alexander Grishuk and Hikaru Nakamura, which repeated a line actually in which I beat Alexander in a candidates in Mexico City way back in 2007, I think it was. And it seems like both of them were incredibly well prepared, but maybe Hikaru's preparation and the understanding of the resulting endgame was slightly more in-depth than Sasha's was, because I think Sasha had to solve some very, very serious problems there. Okay, so that was game 3. I think that's enough with this particular challenge for now. Let's switch to playing normal chess for a while. This has been exhausting, frankly. Having to force myself to deal with this kind of stuff is... Whoa! Fisher random! Or should I say chess 960? That's pretty cool. There's a ton of very strong players based in St. Petersburg. We have currently, I guess, 3 players rated above 2700. That's yours truly, Nikita Vityugov, who has been consistently rated sort of between 2720 and 2740 for the past, I don't know, 3 years. So this is the thing. If I go, like, will it allow me to castle is the question. I'll castle by doing this, but probably actually castling will, and this is not a great move, to be honest. I didn't really want to make it, but I'm not confident enough in the software to try and castle any other way. Don't really like my position very much, I have to say. This queen on a8 is kind of pointless. I need to try and get it out of the corner somehow, play knight c7 maybe. Try and get rid of this knight on d5, it's extremely annoying. Yeah, Colin, I kind of realized that. I will, if I get the visa in time, which I probably will, I will play in a very strong tournament in China in March. The field is the two top Chinese players, Ding Liren and Yu Yangyi. And I think from what I've seen, it's Anish, Hari, Mickey Adams, and myself. Very nice to see the Chinese organizers, you know, respecting the pensioners. I somehow thought this attacked the d3 pawn, which it doesn't, so b takes c5 just wins a pawn here. I'm actually in a ton of trouble here. I'm not in Sharjah because I chose the... all of us were given a choice of picking the 3 tournaments we wanted. You play 3 out of 4. And I chose, like, not everybody got what they preferred, obviously, because it's very difficult to accommodate everyone in this format. But I asked not to play Sharjah because I felt that my January and early February were difficult enough without having to play an extremely important tournament immediately afterwards. And I did get my wish, so I will play the other 3. I have seen today's Yanni Pomnishi game. It's very, very impressive. I don't know how much of it was his home prep. I don't actually have a manager. So in my case, it is most assuredly me. I wanted to just go knight c4 here. Knight c6 is also a move, but I quite like knight c4. Because if I win the e7 pawn back, which it seems like I might, my position in terms of, structure and piece play and all of these good things is very, very decent. I missed queen c3 though, when I was... I calculated this line via a slightly different move order when my opponent was playing, was thinking about d6. And I thought he has no useful way to attack my pieces. Actually, both queen c3 and queen a2 are quite annoying. I'm not sure the other three places are better than Sharjah. For one thing, there are cricket matches being held in Sharjah, which I think is not true about the other 3 places. But I mean, joking aside, there's nothing wrong with Sharjah, and my choice was not motivated by my feelings about Sharjah. It was honestly solely motivated by... I'm going to go for something very, very speculative here. I don't think it works, but I think it's interesting, and I want to try and make it work. They were solely motivated by what I mentioned, simply scheduling issues. I wanted to have some time to prepare because the Grand Prix series and the World Cup this year are probably, objectively speaking, my last chance to qualify, or at least attempt to qualify for the World Championship cycle. And I didn't want to do that half-baked. So the idea is he takes on c4 here, and queen e1, queen f1 is nothing whatsoever. But I can play bishop f5, driving the rook from b1 to some other squares. And then I want to play rook c8 next move. And this, at least in my estimation, will create a situation in which he will run out of good squares for his pieces. Like he goes rook a1, for instance, which looks like the most natural move here. I go rook c8. And the queen goes somewhere. Actually, queen e2 probably wins there. That's horribly unfortunate. Yeah, I mean, I said it was extremely speculative, and I did miss queen b4 as well. But queen b4, maybe I can find something to play against that move. Or maybe not. Not sure. Like, whoops, sorry. Yeah, queen b4 was also completely missed by me. Maybe I should have started with queen e1, no, but that didn't work either. That's a very strong move. That is a very, very strong move. And here, if he just goes bishop b3, I think I'm kind of lost. Yeah, well played by my opponent. I don't have to resign just yet, but this clearly is a horrible, horrible position. And it's not altogether entirely surprising. I did say that I don't think it works, but I want to make it work, I think was the exact quote was exactly what I said there. And that evaluation has been borne out by practice. I was not aware that Eric was back, Kalilif. That's an interesting choice. You normally wouldn't allow queen d1 check, because king g2 is just such an awkward move to make. I mean, it doesn't really spoil anything necessarily, but it doesn't seem like the most obvious idea, putting your pieces on these squares particularly. I should try and make immediate use of it. And now I'm just completely fine, maybe even better. Because, well, he cannot trade queens, because if he trades queens, my queenside pawns will be... Whoops. Yeah, I'm sorry about the ending of that game. But, yeah, I could do something more restrained, like bishop a6 or maybe b6, b5, which was probably stronger and probably gave me a playable position, but... Even more so, I guess just playing knight c6 here was a lot better than knight c4 because of both queen c3 and queen a2. I have seen cricket live at the stadium, obviously. So yeah, I mean, if Eric decides to come back to chess, it's great for chess, because Eric is one of the all-time most colorful chess players, and players who have the most stories about them, perhaps. So it's always great to. That did not go quite right? I mean, we can go from here, but 5 for me against 3 for him. I'm pretty sure this is not what he meant. So I will now proceed to talk to you guys for about 2 minutes to at least equal the times, because I don't think I should be getting time odds. If my opponent actually wanted to give me 2 minutes time odds, that's fair play to him. But I suspect he probably misclicked on the challenge, and I don't think it's particularly good for me to be accepting time odds during this banter. Okay, so my machine this is kind of fun. A particular thing the notebook I'm streaming from does these days is that due to something which is quite clearly wrong with my keyboard bus, it just switches the keyboard completely off. The moment you type a little bit, it just switches the keyboard completely off, and then you can't type, you can't do anything, you can't type in like web addresses. Luckily for me, for streaming, the mouse should be completely sufficient. So the banter will continue, and hopefully it will last the entire 2 hours, because it doesn't seem to kill the machine. It just makes it completely unusable for anything that requires you to use the keyboard. But yeah, I wanted to answer to my opponent in chat, because he confirmed that he couldn't set the handicap correctly, and I wanted to type something in the chat box next to the board, and was kind of gleefully informed by my notebook that nah, no keyboard for you. I played some Blitz games live over the board against Anton. He's a very, very dangerous player. Okay, so here we go, King's Indian. An opening I know very, very little about. The question is, 1b6 sound is somewhat, I would say it's not concrete enough, because it kind of depends on against which moves you're trying to make that move. So what we're trying to get here with white is some kind of a Tomaszewski setup via a very different move order. I'm not sure if bishop g2 or queen c2 is better. I'll go with queen c2 because I'm not sure the bishop actually belongs on g2 at all. And in Tomaszewski lines, which generally arise from knight f3 and h3, you know, as you know, it should be obvious, the knight is not on e2, it is on f3. And here I have this option of putting the knight on g3, which I think, in particular against the counterplay with f5, should be extremely useful for me. So now we are seemingly, I mean, in my very, very limited understanding of how King's Indian works, we should be completely winning here. But that doesn't mean we will win. But objectively, white should be close to completely winning. I'll make sure or at least once again, I will try to make sure e5, e4 never happens in this game. Because the only way black actually gets any kind of counterplay here is by reviving his g7 bishop. I don't really care about b5, I don't think, I mean, for as long as the g7 bishop is not a piece, there will be no counterplay on the queen side. And we also kind of accidentally completed the challenge again, right? I castled queenside after my opponent castled kingside. I can also just play d6 check here, I guess. I'm not quite sure what I'm doing, but this should be pretty strong. And now we have this geometrical idea, which I think collects even more material, so we will just win. Why I'm choosing the Khan variation and not the Taimanov, as Robin suggests in his videos, is a curiously phrased question. First of all, I played a decent amount of Taimanov myself, so it's not as if I never play the Taimanov. And secondly, I honestly do not believe I am contractually obliged to play what my colleagues at Chess24 are recommending. I am still, I think, sort of allowed to keep an open mind. Okay, so I played the Grunfeld, I played some kind of weird stuff. Let's break open the Budapest. Haven't played the Budapest in a long time. Mainly because it's not a very good opening, and it's not a very good opening precisely because of these lines, which are kind of sad and just don't equalize. Actually, I think maybe knight f3 was close to winning there. Knight b3 is not a bad move, but I think knight f3 may have been an even bigger issue for black here. I don't particularly mind my bishop on d6 in these types of structures. I probably do mind this, although I'm not entirely sure why I should and how bad it is. Let's just pretend I don't understand why this sacrifice is so great. Yeah, I should watch the entire episode. I've seen the snippets, obviously, by now of the Magnus Simpsons episode, but I haven't actually watched the entire thing yet. I think this move actually allows me to keep the pawn. He will find it very difficult to win it back. He can take on d6 and sort of switch to playing against the weakness on d6, and it is actually a weakness, but it's not going to be easy to win that back either. And that, I thought, just loses a piece, no? That was kind of the point of what I was doing. That if he takes on c5, I take on f4, and then I play knight d4, and that's a bit of a super fork. That just collects everything. Game continues for some reason, I'm not sure why. It's not even a piece, it's a full rook. And I do have a minute and a half left. That feels slightly unnecessary. I'm not going to, you know, go full salt about this, but it does seem to be unnecessary to continue from here. Okay, more. I promised to mix it up a little bit, so let's go down the list and find some, perhaps, let's look for something weirder. That's just a time odds challenge, nothing particularly weird about that. Let's try and get the King's Gambit going. No King's Gambit for me, but I'll continue as if I didn't realize 1e5 did not happen. Knights are extremely tricky. That's a very, very true statement. I'm not sure about bishop b5 check, to be honest. I'm not a huge 2f4 player. I think I have about 0 games with this variation in my entire life, and I probably should have kept it that way. Okay, so you're supposed to do this, and actually the other moves just don't appeal, so I will stick with this plan. And this is sort of sticking to the challenge. We kind of castled slightly before our opponent did, but it's keeping with the challenge in spirit, at least. Maybe not in the letter of the challenge, but in the spirit, surely. Okay, so I can play knight c6 and win a pawn. Or I can pretend that I'm an exciting attacking player and play something along the lines of g4 followed by h4 and so on. I think 2802 is possibly the highest I ever got. Maybe I had 2804 at some point. I don't play nearly enough to like compete with Jan, for instance, and his lofty 2900 plus ratings. I think maybe he even had close to 3000 at some point. That's completely unreachable heights for me with my volume. How's the stream quality, people, by the way? Peter, I am pleased patriotically to see Mickey creeping towards the top 10 on lever rating. I assume you mean live rating. Were you surprised or encouraged? Mickey is a very, very good friend of mine, so I'm very happy to see that. But sadly, I don't think you know it's not contagious, so to speak. Mickey is playing very, very good chess recently, and I'm very happy for that. But unfortunately, it does not immediately mean that I will suddenly start playing good chess as well. And yeah, fe5 b4 was a bit of a tactical oversight by my opponent. Yeah, if I wanted to actually grind a little bit, and if I cared a little bit more about my chess 24 blitz rating, I could probably get it significantly higher than what it is now. But doesn't really feel like there's much point in that, because I don't really feel like I need to prove anything to my viewers in terms of my qualities as a player, and I don't think me having a higher chess 24 rating will necessarily prove anything to my viewers. If I suddenly start winning very strong live tournaments, that will do something for my street cred. Breaking 3000 on chess 24 probably won't. So yeah, it doesn't really feel like I should be. I mean, I could be playing Blitz on chess 24 in between Banter Blitzes, but all of my other hobbies are occupying too much of my spare time, frankly. Okay. For those, 2.5 pieces people watching this who will understand what I'm talking about, I will probably create a fresh account and attempt the leaderboard in March. Looking for something in the list. Don't really know what I'm looking for in the list. I was kind of hoping this was more than just 3 against 5. Let's do something quirky here. I don't know what that is. People want asking me to play the Mora. Yeah, maybe. Can't promise anything. I trust chat will handle the the inevitable Paul Borta question superbly without me. Come on, chat, don't let me down. Not really sure about knight e2 here. Kind of feels like I'm not doing this right. I think it's time for more quirkiness. I'm obviously preparing to take on c6, and because of that, I felt like it's useful for me to prepare for the inevitable pawn that will be hanging on g2. Kind of wanted to play c4 here, and then I realized knight b4 might be annoying, but I'll do it anyway. Did I play with Eric when he was commentating with me? No. The match in New York, specifically because of the time zones, was so exhausting that by the time the broadcast ended, I don't think either of us was in any shape at all to do well, anything apart from stagger back to our hotel and hopefully immediately fall asleep in our respective rooms. So that's the setup I was kind of going for, and as you can see, it allows me, especially now that I've kind of tempted him to play a6, I sort of won the tempo by playing f3 in advance and not having to deal with the pawn that would have been hanging on g2. I want to play d4 here, but I'm kind of unhappy about having to take with the pawn. So I'll start with king b1, and then if this continues, now I can probably take with the knight and convince myself that I can sacrifice the e3 pawn for initiative. I'm not sure how much of an initiative this actually is, but there will be some because of how passive my opponent's pieces are, in particular on the king side. I'm not really sure what that f6 move was about. I think maybe he was trying to mirror my development. But my development kind of had a point behind it. c5 kind of allows for simplifications, but... Okay, I'll wait for the time being. Peter, what do you think of Vladimir Aframeyev, the Russian 2646 FM? I assume you know the story there, which is why you're asking. I'm not going to say anything that is not by now more or less public knowledge. There is, and here I have this very beautiful idea, so I'll go for it. I don't know if it works or not, but I'm not even gonna check. Whoa, that's a strange decision. That just loses a rook. The point was I wanted to go knight takes c6 followed by queen e4 check. It probably wasn't working, but yeah, allowing e6, in particular playing bishop e7, was a bit of a mistake. Okay, one more somewhat lower rated challenge, and then we'll play high rated people again for a while. Aframeyev is, I think, very famous. I think he was at some point on the record claiming that he can get his, it was either a cat or a dog to be a FIDE Grandmaster. I thought he was banned at some point, but apparently he still isn't, which is kind of sad. I mean, he's not the highest profile of those cases. I think the Romanian player, I believe his name was Krisan, is higher profile than Aframeyev, but I don't think it should come to you know, huge surprise to most people that there is occasionally some hanky-panky with titles and ratings. Yeah, Kado knows. That's exactly what happened. Yeah, I mean, I sort of knew from the question that you know the story, Kali, and if you wanted me to confirm it, I mean, I have no first-hand experience with any of this. I don't know the man, and I haven't seen the like the cross tables for the tournaments in question. But there's very little doubt in my mind that they were not real tournaments. Yeah, I mean, Krisan at some point decided to play against actual chess players, which was a weird decision. Aframeyev, to my knowledge, doesn't. He just did this as, well, sort of proof of concept more than anything else. I don't know why it matters so much to some people to have the title, if they are, you know, not actual chess players in spirit. Yeah, and I keep on forgetting this is a minute and a half against 5. I should probably stop reading chat for this game. Thank you, CP Kuta. No. Aborting the game if I don't like the odds is very much not in the spirit of the whole thing. I think that would be completely wrong. And also, it's just my clicking. I mean, in general terms, Giving a minute and a half to 5 against someone who, you know, if we assume this is his actual rating, against someone who is rated 1598, you know, live over the board, I'd feel extremely confident. I wouldn't have any problem with this whatsoever. Like, bishop e5 is also a move. I don't know if I should try it. Actually, knight e5 is a lot better objectively, but I'm kind of trying to spook my opponent here and force him to maybe panic somewhere. Knight h2 is a threat here. But if he just plays something like rook fd1, I'm not quite sure what I'm doing and why this is any good. Yeah, the I like to move it. Let's try a little experiment. I will tell you a joke, and chat will tell me honestly how many of you will actually understand what I'm talking about. The joke goes as follows. A guy, that's an IT joke from like the early 90s. A guy is sitting in front of a computer. He has a Norton Commander open, and he presses F6, enter, tab, F6, enter, tab, and goes, I like to move it, move it. That's the entire joke. And now the question is, how many of you actually understand why this is remotely funny? My position is winning, and I'm also kind of caught up on time, so that should be okay. Bringing it smoothly back to the subject of chess. Sort of winning, actually. I kind of overestimated just how winning it is. It kind of is winning, but okay, we can continue picking up some material with checks. But at some point I will have to play rook f8. And then yeah, it's not going to be as clear as I originally thought, but I think I should still win. Of course, people have no Norton Commander by heart. Norton Commander was, you know, the most important piece of software we were using in those days. But anyway, as expected, people don't know what I'm talking about, and if they do, they don't find it funny. That's not an unexpected result there. As promised, some higher rated people for a bit. Let me just find something. That's a name I don't recognize. Okay, so because people are, whoa, the Zvagintsev Sicilian. Much respect to my opponent for doing this. This is actually not horrible. I mean, it looks extremely weird, but this actually isn't all that horrible. Although, like in most good cases for white, you just transpose to something which would be playable without this move. And also, this is obviously like a troll bait. Like, you kind of tell black, would you like to refute this? And refutation as such does not exist because, you know, white generally is not worse whatever he does in the opening, unless it's something completely ridiculous. Yeah, and g6h4 is one of the possible pitfalls. I'm not sure about bishop d2 though. I think my opponent is not doing it, you know, in the spirit of what Vadim wanted from this line. I think the bishop doesn't belong on d2. I think that was just some kind of a weird pre-move. Don't really understand why that move was remotely necessary. Yeah, it is a Zvyagintsov variation. Good for you, CP. And I mean, remember, Vadim himself played this in the Russian Super Final, I believe, against Alexander Khalifman. So it's not as if you know, the stem game has not been played in a very, very serious setting. The stem game was against an ex-world champion. I mean, Vadim was very, very, I mean, he was deadly serious about this. He didn't do it on a whim or anything like that. He honestly believed the move was playable, and he played it. And he had you know, carefully mapped out responses to most of the options black could choose against it. Yeah, and there are people in chat explaining the f6 enter tab joke, which I think is unnecessary. I mean, the joke is not like the punchline is not very surprising. It's just that every now and again I like to remind the viewers just how old I am. No, Adam C. Sadly, we cannot play because you very, very specifically need to be premium to participate in these shows as a player. You can watch, but you cannot play. That actually was, you know, these shows were kind of created to highlight the benefits available to the premium members. It's not really trolling. It's just that one of the I mean, I generally get it's kind of funny because in the current political climate, and this is not something I like to discuss very much because it's very, very sad to be discussing it, but one of the things I hate the most about the current political climate everywhere, not just in my country or in some other countries, is the fake outrage industry. And that is somehow coupled in my mind with the fact that I actually don't get offended when people say offensive things about me all that much, but I do get horribly offended for other people. And I think I can actually take, I mean, it looks dangerous, but I think I can actually take. If I end up getting mated, it will be unfortunate. No, this is not the way to go about things here. And I remember many years ago I read an article written by Nigel Davis, in which he called Zvyagintsov, I believe, something like yet another Dvoretsky robot. And I still remember it all these years later, because I knew Vadim from, you know, early childhood, and he is about as far away from being a robot of any sort, Dvoretsky or otherwise, as you can get in chess. And it just felt like it was just such a ridiculous throwaway insult that yeah, I got very, very horribly impressed by it, let's put it like this, and I still remember it all these years later. Vadim is one of the more, you know, creative and interesting players around. Always has been. He played unbelievably offbeat openings in junior tournaments. He would do all kinds of outrageously interesting stuff. Anyway, that was me going on some weird tangent about something Nigel Davis wrote in about 1995. I don't know why I did that, but there you go. What? Okay. That's actually pretty funny. And the other thing about this position is that my opponent probably knows something about it. Which is kind of regrettable because I don't. Can I afford to play g3 here is what I would like to know. I would very much like to keep my extra material, but I'll start with queen b1 check. And then we'll think. I can play knight f2, but he can play queen takes h2 in reply, and that kind of annoys me. Or rook takes h2 even. I would like to go g3, but then he plays queen e5. But I think I can probably make this work somehow. I don't actually have a favorite in a match against India and Australia. I mean, like, my allegiance is, like, I have no dog in that fight. Yeah, now I mean, it's kind of sad that it kind of deteriorated to this, which is just a technical endgame where I'm a pawn up and should win if I don't mess up too badly. Like I really liked that challenge because, you know, my opponent actually went to all the trouble of setting this position up. And it's kind of sad that it now is a dry technical endgame. Yeah, I do support England. I've always supported England. But honestly, the game in itself will not be particularly exciting. But I'm very grateful to Latvian Gambit here for doing this, because this gives this show you know, a very interesting flavor, which is generally absent. Because I mean, the formula, you wouldn't say the formula is entirely stale, but the formula is somewhat repetitive. And now that we are getting all these weird starting positions today, at least there's, you know, something you can go WTF about when you see the starting position. Should be close to mate. And yeah, after knight f6, I think it will be difficult for me to give mate, but I should be. I mean, that always is an option. It's kind of sad. And once again, it sort of not in the spirit of the thing, but don't really want to mess up and not win. Why am I trying to give up all of my pawns? That would be completely unnecessary. It does seem like a very interesting test match that I'm missing right now. I should be watching that. I don't know why. I don't know what. Somehow, you know, recently I've not been as much in touch with the cricket schedule as I normally am. It shames me to say that, but I actually was not aware this test match was going on, which is not a sentence I can utter very often. I generally don't really miss those things. Getting too many whites to my liking. Let's start doing something. Let's see if we can get a King's Gambit rolling, or a Mora. And yeah, I mean, if I stopped watching cricket, you can imagine how much attention I'm paying to the soccer calendar. I actually managed to miss a Zenit Europa League match yesterday. I read about it in my Facebook feed. That's also not something that I do generally. Yeah, I've seen the score by now, Kiftir. This knight on e4 feels like I should be able to actually pick it up somehow. Maybe this way? And yeah, it's somewhat regrettable when you play the Mora and your opponent just plays e6. That's just sad. And f5 doesn't actually save the knight as far as I can tell. I blame Nigel Jabroni, and that's not any kind of a hyperbole or anything. Without Nigel, I probably would never have found out about the sport, or at least it would have happened a lot later. Yeah, I don't see what that does. $28.09. The climb is real. Okay. So this is another one of those custom thingies, and I have this beautiful knight on a1. Which I should develop somehow. No, Blue Haze, this has not really come to any kind of fruition, sadly. But I haven't been to England since that Twitter exchange, so all is not lost yet. I mean, all hope is not lost yet. I think I've done some commentary with Nigel at some point in my life, but that was some time ago. Road to 3000 PogChamp, exactly. Yeah. Exchange odds to legend. Day 23. Slowly becoming an alcoholic. That's a very specific reference which probably nobody will get. Exchange odds are actually not that horrible. I mean, I'm obviously objectively lost here, but when is the next time I will get a chance to play with 3 knights on the board from the opening? It's not that you're 13, Kexi, it's that you You have not been successful in petitioning your parents to get your premium membership. Okay, this knight goes to f5. Or at least it hopes to go to f5 anyway. And then it gets driven back, which is very, very sad. Just bishop f8 followed by g6, and we'll have to go somewhere else. I actually have sort of more knights than I know what to do with here, which is a funny thing. And once again, a gentle reminder that asking for a game in chat will not give you any kind of preferential treatment. Now I'm doing extremely well because I don't know for what reason my opponent had for not playing bishop f8 on g6, but now that I managed to open the center, all of my knights actually have things to do, all three of them. And this one is now headed towards the d6 square, which is a fantastic square for it. And the one on f5 is still alive to create direct threats against the king. I have a feeling that despite me not winning any material back, I'm actually, if you switch the machine on right now, I feel like I'm better. Yep, Piotr is well, I mean, Piotr is also not right. It's that sound, it doesn't really. It's Piotr, but that sound is very, very alien to most Western ears. If you spell it this way with the Y and the O, there is this, like, the sound you end up making is a lot longer, I feel, than the actual yo that is used in my name. There should be mate. Coming back to the... Whoa. I saw something extremely beautiful, and I will try very hard to get there, but this is probably not objectively the best move. Bishop takes g7 is very strong. Knight takes... Yeah, that's so sad. That is just so regrettable, because this also wins for white, but if he played the other knight to f6, there was an extremely beautiful mating construction which I was so much hoping to get on the board, and I will try to show it to you after the game, because this is just mate, but it's kind of prosaic mate without without a particular flourish. I'll show you now. My opponent will probably now resign because it's kind of mate in 3. And thanks Blim Blam for the kind words, which will not be shown on screen, but it's very nice to get positive feedback. And now the line I so much wanted to happen on the board. If black plays knight 7 f6 here, I go knight e7 check. Obviously king h8, knight x f7 is some kind of mate, which is not very interesting. Rook e7 is the best move in this position, I guess. And after d7, rook e8. White should be winning, but it actually probably would require some technique. So that's maybe the reason why just playing knight g5 was wrong. But I was extremely attracted to this move, king f8, and seemingly black actually stabilizes. And here I was planning to do this. And this is just such a nice move. I was so much hoping this will happen on the board. Because f7 is hanging, there's really no way to defend that pawn. And if he takes, we get like a mirror version of the same mate, but with the king on f8. And that would have been such a nice way to conclude the game. I think Bunraty 2017 already finished, so I will not be coming to that. And congratulations to Nigel for winning it with a perfect score. I might eventually return to Bunraty because the 2 times I was there, I've had a fantastic time. It's a great tournament, and you know the organizers and Jerry Graham and his team are extremely hospitable, and they are excellent people. But it always clashes with something. Anyway, now that I was basically waiting for the chat to catch up with this because I wanted to see if you like this final position, and now that I've gotten some positive affirmation, we can proceed with more challenges. Okay, that's not quite right. And now let's have like a 2-minute ask me anything in chat, because I'm not doing this 5 against 4 for myself. Yeah, once again I can't type anything back, but you get I get the confirmation that this was not meant to be set up this way, and I will give him 3 against 4. As for the 7 planets discovered by NASA, I basically am only aware of the headlines. I would need to actually read some proper articles on the subject. Maybe try and fish for the original articles in non specific scientific press, because I think the sensationalist angle that it's being the way it's been covered in the media, you just get the huge wow but no details. Okay, 30 seconds to go. When is my next Banter Blitz is an interesting question. I'm not entirely sure. I'm dealing with there's a number of things I need to do in the immediate in a couple of weeks. So I'm not sure. Now that the setup is kind of established, the option exists, but there is no set date. I can't promise anything. So we're playing the Dutch with reverse colors, which is an improved Dutch, obviously. And apparently Harika has to give mate with bishop and knight in the Women's World Championship semi-final. I had a discussion on the subject with Jan very recently, and on one level it's very, very surprising for me that people don't just resign, but on the other hand, it's very much on the record that people do on occasion fail to give mate with bishop and knight. It's very mystifying to me, because it really isn't that difficult. I mean, once you understand how it's done, it really isn't rocket science, especially when you have time remaining. And seemingly, I opened the game on the second monitor, and seemingly, she has 11 minutes left. And really, with 11 minutes left, the expected value of not resigning probably isn't very high. And I personally would feel, somewhat embarrassed not to resign in that position. But then again, I'm very famous for, resigning in all kinds of weird spots where nobody else would ever resign. So my opinion probably can be disregarded. So it's a bit of a weird one. Not sure about this move, but once again, there's this old chestnut about, you know, the side with the initiative having to attack or risk that initiative being extinguished. So I'm trying to open up, you know, new files to exploit. I can also just take on a5, to be honest. I think I probably should. I'm always very reluctant to, you know, switch to some kind of material grab, but I think it's just the best move in the position. And after b5, you know, I can deal with this in a number of ways. You know, the safest is probably knight a3, but I suspect I can just take as well. I mean, on a8 or knight b6. There's a number of things here I can do here as well. But I think knight a3 is just the simplest. Because if he goes bishop b7 here, which would have been a strong move in most other circumstances, I have bishop c7, which is very awkward for him to meet. And this actually loses a queen. This is a very, very unusual kind of a box that he got himself in. The only square is a7, and then I go knight takes b5, and this queen on a7 is getting captured next move. Is Capablanca's chess as simple as people say? These things are just so unbelievably subjective that, like, define... Me like it. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Full marks to my Sig duck. For that. Giving me no option. That is really, really nicely done. He doesn't seem to be there, sadly, so he is now running the risk of not getting his French. But I'll give him some more time. I mean, inventiveness like this has to be praised and encouraged. But not too much more time, because I feel like you know, not a lot of purpose is being served by us just sitting here staring at this position. So let's count down from, in a slight break from tradition, let's count down from 15 and then start something else. Yeah, he is quite obviously AFK, which is very regrettable, because I understand that people have issued those challenges ages ago and they can't be at the computer at all times, but neither can we really be just... the stream cannot be put on hold for forever. So like 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm sorry, Duck. Let's play some below 2000 games again. Hopefully I can find some which are not 5 minute. To get some more action in. I actually got to play this line in a serious game recently. That was half serious preparation for one of the candidates tournaments in order to be able to play knight f3 g5 and then not play any of the mainline stuff. And I used it in the last round of Jib to beat Alexander Huzman with black, which is not something that happens every day. He is an extremely solid, extremely well prepared, and just an all-round strong player. Yeah, I'm sorry, I really am, Duck, but we could not wait any longer. Yeah, the Huzman that beat Kasparov once in 25 minutes or so, but he is Huzman, not Guzman. Okay, so what do we do here? Knight e4 is one option. You could also make an argument for the immediate e5, maybe dc4 followed by e5 is not ridiculous. a5 is not ridiculous, but I want to see if I can maybe get something going on the king side. Probably not, but... in particular because my kingside plans are extremely speculative. And this is a good beginning because like I want to play f5 and pretend I have an attack on the kingside, which is generally just not true here. White's position is extremely solid. I don't know what this move is though. I'll probably stick with my plan. Generally, on almost every move here, my opponent had the option of playing knight g2, which is very sensible, so I'm trying to take that away, mainly. I want to now plonk my knight on e4 and then go for some kind of h5, h4 play, or maybe knight e4, g5, f4 play. All of this is not really all that great objectively, but it should be fun to try. And now we're getting some files on the kingside open, so I probably will get my kingside attack. I did play in junior tournaments at some point in my life, Kexi, so my youngest opponent was maybe 6. If you mean in recent years, it's harder to quantify. I'm not quite sure. Somewhere in the region of 15, 14, but I don't really follow these things very closely. There's a lot of people I remember from previous Banters, and it does feel like I should be trying to play people I've never played before, but not that easy to find absolutely new names. Let's go g6. If my opponent plays e4 here, we will get interesting non-standard positions. The English cannot really be described as non-standard. This is all very much mainline theory now. I'm not sure why d3. If I play d5, it transposes something else, so I will opt for a different choice. And I am still keeping half an eye on the Harika game, and it does feel like she now has the correct setup for driving the king from the wrong corner to the correct corner, and she's not doing it for some reason, which kind of reinforces the point that maybe I'm just flat out wrong on the subject of resigning in these positions. I think that was a mistake by my opponent, because he will not be in time to play b4 here because of e6. And if he is not in time to play b4, the whole sequence just makes no sense. He just gave me an extremely strong bishop. b5 is decent here, because if I take, he takes on c6, I take with the bishop, and he plays something like knight d2 and recaptures that pawn. But his bigger issue here is that I can play something like knight b8. And we get a position in which I have a bishop pair, and the queen side is closed. There will now be, you know, very, very little in the way of play for him on the queen side. I'm not sure about this d5 move though. If he goes something like knight e1 here, I might regret it. I probably should have started with knight d7. This is a bit too ambitious. But now I have time for everything. And this is the kind of position I wanted to use as illustration. I have my bishop pair, and I have ways to improve in the center and on the king side. Whereas for white, it's extremely difficult to name, you know, a plan of improvement at all here. d3, d4 is, you know, one constructive plan that he could maybe try going for in some positions, but it's very difficult to realize with my bishops being as strong as they are. I will actually... This I have to see, because it really is extremely confusing to me how this can happen. I will just have the Harika game open in a separate window, because if you don't know how to mate with knight and bishop, if you actually never took the time to find that out, it's not that easy. It's not that easy to calculate your way out of it. This exchange sacrifice was completely unnecessary, but it kind of speeds the game up a little bit. I mean, it's definitely correct in the sense that my position is still extremely good and probably better. But I could also just improve my position with more quiet means without having to resort to, you know, immediate violence, so to speak. And now I can even win back my material. Sorry about the, potentially you may have heard the sounds of like an aircraft lifting off, which is my old notebook on which I have the chat open, suddenly deciding it needs to switch the fan on. I hope the mic is not picking too much of that up. But, you know, without the second screen I feel completely blind, so there's not a lot I can do about it. Oh my god. Now that's actually taking things a little bit too far, I feel. Come on, Clamor, you're better than that. Oh my dear God. What am I supposed to do with this? Seriously though. What am I supposed to do with this? Yeah, this is really too much. I feel like, you know, it's taking a good idea and ruining it by taking it to an absolute extreme. Also, how do I trade any of these things off? Like, it's so confusing. Like, I want to play knight f4, but it took me like 3 seconds to check if I'm not blundering a knight here. Okay, so we traded off one pair. There is now slightly more air to breathe for us on this board. But it really is very, very much like, this is headache inducing. What am I supposed to do with this position? I'm aiming to go knight a7 and knight b5. This is why I played a6. This knight on c8 is annoying me. Okay. Actually, probably don't want to weaken my structure. I go king f8 for the time being. But Jesus Christ, I mean, this is just so incredibly difficult to play like this. Knight d3 check. This knight might never actually return. It's very risky to do it. But I want to try. Yeah, that was like a trap. That was my one big tactical idea. So I will now be a pawn up. I mean, seriously, my head hurts. No joke, my head actually hurts now. Just by looking at this. But we are getting some stuff off the board finally. We are finally getting some stuff off the board. If we trade another 3 pairs, we'll be somewhat okay, I guess, right? 3 more pairs and we're in clover. Especially now that I'm a pawn up, I think I should be aiming for simplifications. Meanwhile, in the bishop and knight universe, the endgame started. The endgame started on move 116, so they have until 166, right? Which is 20 moves ago. I mean, 20 moves ahead, not ago. Can you imagine playing this blindfolded? Please no. I mean, you're giving me a migraine even mentioning this. Mary, don't do this to me. But the position on the board now, I would feel that from here it should actually be possible to just calculate your way out without even knowing the mechanism. Because it is now just mate in 9. And mate in 9 you just find without even knowing the setup. I think I'm actually winning the e5 pawn now. My opponent doesn't want to give up on the e5 pawn, but I think I should be able to pick it up anyway. I play knight c8 and then I play b5. There are probably copious amounts of theory on this position. I never actually studied 3 knights against 1. I also don't really know the Troitsky ley lines, so to speak. I would not be, off the top of my head, capable of telling you which ones of those are winning and which ones are draw. My education on the subject is sorely lacking. And this is almost normal now. We traded off, like, we had 16 knights to start with, and there's only 6 left, and we are 2 pawns up, so yeah. But yeah, that probably was taking a good idea somewhat too far. Respect to Klamar, because like, I went completely insane when I saw the starting position, but still, it was very headache-inducing. And in the Harika game, there are now, I think, 16 moves left for her to give mate, if my count is correct, and she has mate in 12. But she already went somewhat wrong. The mate was both available faster than it is now, and it was simpler than it is now. If I mean, it's painful to contemplate. She needed to win this game to force tie breaks, and if she actually fails to win because she doesn't give this mate, she will not be very happy. She will not be very happy at all. And this will be something she will have to work very, very hard to shake off. I don't think knight c3 is a great idea here. Frankly, I think something like knight d2 was probably more sensible, or bishop d2 followed by knight c3. I think what I got here is an extremely nice version of the Volga/Benko, in particular because I didn't even have to sacrifice my a-pawn for it. It kind of depends on whether he can play d5, d6 here. I mean, he can, but whether it's any good. Because if it's not any good, then if I get my, let's say, if I play d6 and knight d7, I'm just better because my bishops are just so much better than my opponents. And yeah, I think we'll leave off discussing the bishop and knight situation until the game actually finishes. The way a grandmaster doesn't win that, I think, first and foremost, has a lot to do with stakes. The stakes, as Jan is so fond of saying, is extremely high for these players. And nerves must be playing a huge part. And as someone who played in World Cups and, you know, knows the schedule and you know, the amounts of nervous energy being expended every round, I can very much relate to even, you know, the simplest seemingly automatical tasks becoming very difficult. But yeah, bishop and knight you should probably manage. This rook takes e3 sacrifice is becoming a bit of a theme. I can also do it here, but it's of course because the queens are off the board. It's a lot less exciting here than it was in the previous game. I'll do it anyway. Yeah, and this is the difference. Here, because white does not need to worry about his king safety, he has all kinds of counterplay that was not at all available to my previous opponent. I still get a decent enough position, but it's nowhere near as spectacular as what I got in my last game. And seems like Harika will make it with about 5 moves to spare, which is cutting it extremely close. But she will now get there, because it's now mate with checks, and mate with checks generally is plenty good enough. Rook f1 is an interesting move, because I assumed my opponent will just take on a7, but he wants to play bishop d5 next, I think. And that is a decent idea. And now my issue is my bishop pair is gone, and with it, you know, hopes of any kind of serious counterplay. And I now have to, at least for the time being, I have to switch to consolidation, because I cannot allow the rook to get re-established on the 7th. And also I will fix the pawn on a4, so that I think my opponent actually had to play a5, because I think this is a very, very large advance for me, that my bishop on c3 is now covering both my d pawn and my a pawn, because it makes my rook a lot freer to attack the targets now that the bishop very, very comfortably covers all of my weaknesses. This is a good move, though. I fail to appreciate how unpleasant this is, because now I'm struggling to meet a very, very simple threat of rook f1. Not actually failing to meet that. I spotted rook a1 just in time. And yeah, it would have been a really horrible disaster, as Miktal correctly says in chat, if Harika did not win that. That would have been extremely difficult to live down. I need to create more passers on the king side, obviously, but that will not be very easy. I think objectively this is not just a draw, but a very, very easy draw for white. But not a lot you can do about it. Not going to try to flag my opponent here. The position is just completely drawn, so yeah, I think rook takes e3 is just unnecessary, but after bishop e3 my advantage was not as large as I originally thought, and as I mentioned, it was very, very important for him to find a way to play d6 here, and a4 driving my bishop to c4 followed by d6 was very clever, because if he plays d6 straight away here, I can take, and if he goes something like knight d4, for instance, if all else fails, I can play bishop c6, negating the threat to my rook on a8 and emerging with an extra pawn. But after a4, bishop c4, d6, if I take here, he goes knight e5, he attacks my rook on a8, and I cannot really interpose anything, so I lose an exchange here. And that forced me to go knight c6, d, rook e8. And at the very least, this makes the bishop on g2 participate in the game. Whereas if you compare it to some kind of a position like, I don't know, if you play bishop e3, no, bishop e3 obviously is not a move, but like you play castles here. And I don't even take on e2, because after rook e1 it's a bit awkward. I go d6, followed by knight d7, knight b6. The bishop on g2 is just completely cut out from any kind of activity, and it's just very unpleasant for white. Okay. We have 25 minutes left, so we have to ration ourselves a little bit. Can't really... That's kind of unfortunate, because like, it's not what he wanted, but we can't also wait until... Let's just make this a challenge. If I go below 3 minutes here, I'll lose. I don't think she was. I don't think it was clever to gain a lot of increment time. I think you never ever want to find yourself in a situation where there's an actual countdown you have to worry about in that endgame. 50 moves is plenty. Getting as close as like 5 or 6 or 7 or whatever it was that he got close, as close as, you just don't want that. It just creates additional pressure, which is completely unnecessary. Seems like this might not start, so we'll give him a bit and then move on to other things. Yeah, seems like this one is a non-starter. Let's play some more Dutch. And a gambit for those. Well, this I have not actually seen, I believe. I think you generally play the Staunton to reply to f takes e4 by knight c3. I'm not sure what this bishop g5 move is about. And being a straightforward person that I am, I will try to refute it. Judging by the speed with which my opponent is playing, I'm probably doing something wrong, but not much leeway left. But I'm also not entirely convinced that this is not good for black. I can return this pawn in a number of ways, which I think should be quite beneficial to me. For instance, just playing knight f6. One thing you don't want to do is to play e takes f3, but as long as you don't do that, I think you should be completely fine here. You want to restrict the knight on g1 for as long as possible, not give it you know, any good development opportunities. I am probably on for another about 20 minutes, Danger Mouse, and then I will hand it over to after 2.5 hours of streaming. I'm not entirely sure who I'm being followed by, frankly. Okay, let's go for adventurous stuff. I'm not sure if this move is any good. But the reason I've called it, yeah, this definitely is not a refutation. The knight had to go somewhere. You do not give me e takes f6 for nothing. That's just completely wrong. Even if he somehow manages to make me play king f7, which he, I mean, I will do it gladly. First of all, this creates a threat of queen a5 check, which he now has to deal with somehow. But even if this wasn't true, even for instance, if he had to play bishop e3, I mean, if he could play bishop e3 and I did not have queen a5 check, even after bishop d6, black is almost completely winning. Well, yeah, that's probably strong, but much better anyway. I mean, the entire schedule is available on the website. I have seen it and I have forgotten it because this is now taking its toll. But you can just go to the live shows tab and look. Yeah, and Colin is, as always, very prompt with up-to-date information. So it's David followed by Jan. So I am being followed by greatness all round. Both of them are excellent. I mean Anton, not David. I mean I think he goes by Anton a lot more than he goes by David. Anton has had a fantastic jib, and this might be a breakout year for him. I'm kind of sad to be doing this, you know, material grab, but it's just too much material not to grab. I'm also better positionally, but it's a full rook. Very difficult to restrict yourself from, you know, grabbing a full rook, and now I'm picking up more material because the bishop is hanging, and also queen takes a2 is a threat of mate in 1, which is a bit strong. Okay, so probably 2 more and we'll call it a day for today. No Dutch here, let's play something else. I really want to get some kind of a b5 line in, but I'm not sure how. Knight f3, please. Excellent. Not that this is such a great, you know, such a great position for black, obviously. White can play something like a4, followed by knight d2, knight b3. And white is of course extremely comfortable, but I just wanted something at least slightly non-standard for this game. And I'm kind of tempted to try, and the thing about c4, which is what I'm contemplating right now, is that it might lead to the entire queen side just disappearing, which is not something I want. Because b4 knight d2 is just not very pleasant, honestly. But the thing about c4 is that he takes, he takes on a8, I take with the bishop, and he goes something like b3. And it will be very, very difficult to prevent, or the immediate b3 even, as correctly pointed out by my opponent. It's going to be quite difficult for me to prevent a lot of material from disappearing on the queen side. But I think the other way was worse, actually, and this is why I'm sticking with this. Yeah, this actually is quite unpleasant as well, because I'm not in time. I wanted to play bishop c6, but then knight e5 is very annoying, and the move queen a5, which I was also kind of hoping might work, runs into queen a1, and I might have to just resign. So, yeah, played myself into quite serious trouble here, I see it would appear. By, you know, doing all of this unnecessarily offbeat stuff. Need to work quite hard not to lose on the spot, but if I stabilize, if I manage for instance to castle and not lose anything on the queen side, I might still be okay. After knight e5 I'll have to make another very sad move, which actually doesn't save material. Yeah, that was a bit ridiculous, because my plan against knight e5 is just completely invalid. It just loses. So if he goes knight e5 here, I think I'm in a ton of trouble. Like a very, very large amount of trouble. I was planning to go queen c8, but then he can just take on c6, and my knight on b8 is still hanging, which means I cannot take with the queen. And if I play queen b6 here, he just takes on c4, and after b takes c4 he can play queen b1. And that also looks completely horrible. Like completely horrible. Yeah, sad times. We might not just get out of the, or you know, it's very, very easy to just get completely stuck in the corner here and not come out of the opening alive. bc4, bc4, queen b1. I think I am not losing after takes and knight 6 d7. I couldn't see how this is refuted on the spot, which is why this is what I will play. But it looks disgusting. It looks absolutely disgusting. I mean, this position is just unbelievably ugly to look at. Yeah, before was possible, but then he just goes knight b5 and creates a threat of knight c7 check. We can return to this after the game. I will try to survive this somehow, and then we will return to this. It's not going to be very easy to survive this, though, because as you can see, my pieces still have no squares to operate on. I wanted to go bishop b4 and king e7, but then I realized that after c3 I'm running out of squares for this bishop as well. Yeah, this is just a horrible, horrible position. This is not like any kind of an ambitious pawn push. I'm trying to stop e3, e4 in some positions. Because if something gets opened in the center, I just die. That's a scientific term for it. If somehow any files at all get opened on the king side, my position just collapses in a heap. It probably collapses in a heap regardless, but yeah, very, very likely. There are just not enough squares for my pieces here. I think I probably have to go knight d8, you know, disgusting as it may look. and hope it doesn't lose somehow. Although I don't quite see how. Should lose. Yeah, handicap is not, like, it's in the title, but it's not promised because obviously the people who are challenging me have to set it up themselves. I'm actually sort of, I think I'm one tempo away from stabilizing. If I can get rook f8 in, I might survive, but the problem is both bishop d6 and knight d6 check are plenty fast enough not to allow me to stabilize, I feel. But after any kind of a half waiting move, rook f8 followed by rook f7 might give me enough time to actually do something about this. And here I want to play knight e8 next move and at least trade some pieces. Yeah, that's a problem. I'll take the draw offer. I understand we are, I'm still a lot worse, and I mean, the only reason the draw was offered here by my opponent is because he's down to 22 seconds, and I mean, if I turn it down, it's just with the intent of flagging him, and I don't think I should. Okay, one last game. This wasn't a particularly glorious game. One last game, and okay. I think that's what we should do. And I will try to concentrate and not not get as steamrolled as I was in the last game. And I'll play my own repertoire. No more fooling around. This has become somewhat popular lately. This idea of playing bishop b6 in this position. There's been a number of games. I'm not sure about queen a5. I may have had a more attractive option there. My point was to play queen b4, but I'm no longer all that happy about it. I think after a3 the queen will have to go somewhere. I mean, it obviously will have to go somewhere. This I have actually... yeah, I'm missing reasonably simple stuff. I wanted to reply to this by queen takes e4, but I now realize I missed queen takes knight takes e7. Sad. I didn't blunder knight d5. I wanted to go queen takes e4, but knight e7, knight e6 is just unpleasant. And seems like my opponent missed knight takes d5, so I got my favor returned to me. And I'm now much better. Although actually winning this position will obviously, well, maybe not now. Bishop f3 was such a strange choice. He should have put it on c4, of course, and because this way I win the second one. Okay, so this is like the hopefully the final phase of the game where we gain space. everywhere, and then we finally find somewhere to break through, and we break through. But you still need to, yeah, that last move was just horrendous. I should pay more attention to what I'm doing here. I'm not sure about f3 though. That feels wrong. And I'll go for a tactical solution here because I feel like my technique is letting me down, so I'll go for a sharper solution. Just collecting his entire king side. So that seems like a reasonably clean game. And with 3 pawns, I'm very, very happy just liquidating into this. Why would you offer a draw here? Like, sometimes people still surprise me a little bit. Like, why would you offer a draw here? I have a minute 20 against 40 seconds and 3 extra pawns. Surely this is not a draw. Okay, 2809. So that's reasonably successful, and we managed to last the full 3 hours seemingly without too much in terms of technical collapses or even collapses over the board. It seems to me like I should have lost the previous game, but I haven't actually, in my memory, I haven't actually lost a game during this session, which is very rare, almost never happens to me. So that's after, you know, giving a long speech about not caring about my results on Chess24, I am now, you know, demonstrably very proud about not losing a game. But yeah, those things can coexist in one head, can't they? And thanks for watching. I will now hand you over to the extremely capable hands of first Anton and then the Banter master to end all Banters, Jan Gustafsson himself. Once again, happy birthday Chess24. Live long and prosper and things of that nature. Thanks everyone in chat for keeping me company, and there will be more of these in the future, although the date is as yet not been specified. Cheers. Let's do this properly. Let's do it this way. Once again, thanks, and yeah, I'll see you soon. Bye.